Hey everybody, it is Mike Young, lifestyle nutritionist with aPlantBasedDiet.org. Welcome to the video, the next chapter of the book. This chapter is about balance. I'm of course a lifestyle nutritionist. We are not talking about practicing medicine here, but we are talking about what you eat. And this book is all about choices that you need to make if you want the hope of living to 150, if you want a 150-year young lifestyle. I'm 52 years young right now, and I'm making this book in May of 2022. So I have 98 more years to go to make it to that goal. Excuse me. Anyway, let's talk about balance, okay? Balance is everything. Balance is the key. You may have heard this before. This has to do with more than you've ever imagined. If you don't think you can live to over 100 years old, or you shouldn't live to 100 years old, because you should. But the reason why people don't is because they do not get the balance thing right. Now, the last two chapters were about listening to your body and finding the root cause. That is all about balance. Your body starts making noises like an old car makes noises, kind of telling you what part's wrong when things are out of balance, okay? It's all about balance. So the idea is to keep yourself in balance so there's less crazy noises or creaks or aches and pains or whatever the case may be with your body. And things are running right. Things are running smoothly. Everything's going great. It's only when things are out of balance and you start throwing the pharmaceuticals in, which have their own negative side effects, and your body's still complaining and it hasn't gone away, but maybe that masks those symptoms, but then you got other symptoms from the pharmaceuticals, and now you can't do this. And things are getting worse. They're just getting worse. I'm getting older. Things are getting worse. And, I guess that's just what happens when you get old. And then next thing you know, you spend the last 10 to 20 years of your life in constant pain. That is not balance. And that's why, I tell some people, okay, I think you should live to 150 years of age, 150 years young. And they're thinking, oh my gosh, I remember my grandmother who the years between 70 and 90 were like some of the most excruciating in her life. She was in a wheelchair. She needed constant attention. She had to go into a nursing home and all this other stuff. This is not what I'm talking about. All right. I know relatives like that too. I've seen this. I've seen it all play out. And the problem is that the people that happened to at the end, they, in almost all cases, all the years that were leading up to those last few years, they made all of these mistakes. And if you're reading all the chapters in my book, you're not going to make any of these mistakes, right? You're going to keep yourself in balance, because once you throw the body out of balance so far, it is even harder and harder to bring it back. And at some point, things get so far out of balance that your body just starts shutting down. We don't want to get you to that point. We want to stop this first, all right? So you have to, the number one thing is if you start to find that you're out of balance, and this is only the rare person is really in balance. And I'm not just talking about, meditation or yoga, I'm talking about the food you're eating. The food you're eating is going to have even more of an effect of bringing you into and out of balance. So there's so many dimensions here, and you have to keep at this, keep yourself in balance. And you'll find that it's totally worth it, because you're not in pain. Your lifespan is going to be dramatically longer. You're not going to be taking these pharmaceuticals all the time. You're not going to be stuck to going to all these doctor's appointments. You can actually go out and do something with your life, do something fun, for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades into the future. That's what you have to gain by recognizing the concept of balance and just what food can do. Because if you recognize that meditation can somehow help your balance, and that yoga can somehow help your balance, and that I don't know, anything else you might think that's in the mindfulness category can somehow help your balance, I will tell you that food is going to 10x that, at least in the effectiveness, with the smaller amount of time put in. You're going to get way more bang for your buck with the food. And there is only the rare person that's out there that's already doing the food all perfectly right. Everyone, including myself, still has factors, orders of magnitude more that they can do, which would, and each one will lead to another exponential increase in benefits. And of course, bringing yourself more and more into balance. And I am not exaggerating when I say this. And if you believe me that I'm not exaggerating when I say this, you'll understand how far out of whack and how far out of balance everybody actually is. And this is a good explanation of why everybody pretty much is sick. And that, 75% or more of all illnesses are due to lifestyle choices. And of course, almost everybody out there, especially when you get over 50, like me, I'm 52, almost everybody out there has some kind of chronic health condition. They are just out of balance. So if you recognize this, and hopefully you do, you're going to take some time to learn, and you're going to put some effort into bringing yourself back into balance. Even if it's habits you don't want to do, if you recognize and convince yourself that these habits are going to bring you into balance, into a greater state of health and healing, then that will motivate you to do these things. You have to motivate. And knowledge is power. Knowledge is the key here. Once you are aware of this stuff, and if you are, and someone you know isn't, please send them this chapter so they can listen to this or watch this, and maybe they'll watch previous chapters or future chapters. This is very complicated. Balance is a very, very complicated thing. It's very simple when you're close to it, because when you start to fall off a little bit in one direction or the other, like on a seesaw, like you can know. But the human life is very complicated. I mean, there are some out there that say, "Oh gosh, human life is so complicated. How can you possibly say that you're gonna tell me what to eat, and that's actually gonna have some real effect on any part of my balance?" That's because people like that who say that were never taught any of the things that I'm telling you here in this book. And they probably learned most of what they've learned about the human body from the sick care system, which, as we talked about in previous chapters, does not generally identify root causes of what's going on. They manage symptoms. And if you can see how if you fall into that thought pattern, then the concept of balance and how it applies to the individual and how it applies to healing is not going to be accepted by you. So you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to go somewhere outside of your comfort zone that you may have never been before, and you need to consider some new ideas. So balance is not a new idea, though. It's been around since the beginning of time. And all of this, actually, these are age-old, iconic pieces of wisdom. There's another word for it. I can't think of it right offhand here. I'm sure I'll remember it in another chapter. But again, these are things that have been passed down from generation to generation as wisdom. And unfortunately, we've been living in the last few generations where, under mostly capitalistic societies, where I think there's a little too much insistence on turning individuals into annuities for the health practitioners. All right, because a lot of what I'm telling you is going to take money away from them. They are definitely needed. Like I've said many times, if you have situations where you're in a terrible, devastating, traumatic accident, you need care immediately. You need emergency care, and they're great at that. Great at keeping people alive. Not only that in those situations, but also with managing symptoms and keeping people alive. But we need to go to another level. And this level is not really rewarded financially, unfortunately, in the systems that we're in. And it's weird because it has really the only chance with many of these problems people have of actual curing and healing. So hopefully you'll stay with me, and this will make some kind of sense to you, and you'll be willing to consider some things that maybe you haven't considered before. And if you do, and if you get some kind of value out of this, please like the video and hit the bell for notifications. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. And also you can find all the videos at liveto150.org, which is below. It's a link below down there. Share it with people, tag your friends. And if you do believe in the concept of balance, please just type in balance there in the comments. That way I'll know that there's other people that not only believe in the concept, I think we all do because we've seen seesaws, we know how they work, but you believe that that's the key to living to 150 is remaining in balance. If you do, please type it out there. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next chapter. Bye-bye.